Hey everybody, it's Sunday, which means games of the week where I look ahead to the upcoming week in the NHL and talk about what I think will be the best games of the week. Quickly, if you're new to the channel, as long as you're a fan of hockey and a fan of the NHL, there are videos here for you. I do topics from across the NHL on an almost daily basis, so if you're a fan of hockey and a fan of the NHL, hit that subscribe button and follow along. Thank you. Also, if you enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up. That really helps out the video a lot. So let's get right into it for this week, starting with today, January 6th, Sunday, all the way through Saturday, January 12th. Holy shit. There are a ton of great games this week. This has been this is the best week matchup-wise of the season. Without a doubt. This is unbelievable. I almost couldn't fit all the games on the board, and I really probably could have had some more up here, but this is just insane how good the games are this week. So let's get into it, starting with today, January 6th, Dallas versus Winnipeg, Central Division matchup. They are 2-3 in the Central Division right now, so this could be a potential first-round playoff matchup. Division rivals, just absolutely great game. Dallas versus Winnipeg should be a real fun one to watch. Also tonight, Edmonton versus Anaheim, and oh my God, does Edmonton need to win this game badly. I'm going to be doing a video talking about Edmonton later today, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, Edmonton really needs a win against a Pacific Division rival who's ahead of them in the standings like Anaheim. That also should be a fantastic game. Now tomorrow, Monday the 7th, we have Nashville versus Toronto, and that's just two great teams going at it. Nashville currently first place in the Central Division. They've recently taken over first place again from Winnipeg. And Toronto, great team in the Atlantic, sitting just behind Tampa Bay. They're also having a really, really good year. So it's a cross-conference game. There's no rivalry between the teams or anything, but it's two very good hockey teams going at it. Also, tomorrow night, we have the LA Kings versus San Jose Sharks. And while the Sharks are really good and the Kings aren't, it's still, anytime any of those California teams meet up, it is a game of the week. Those teams absolutely hate each other, and LA and San Jose have played some very good games this year, some very close games this year, so that should be still a fun one to watch. Then we go to Tuesday the 8th, and oh boy is Tuesday, what a night in the NHL. We have Philadelphia versus Washington, who, I mean, talk about a rivalry there. Those are two teams that don't like each other. Then we have Dallas versus St. Louis. Again, Central Division matchup. Anytime Central teams face off against each other, for the most part, there's a strong rivalry between those teams. It means a lot in the standings, and it's a very, very good matchup. Dallas versus St. Louis is no different. Also, Colorado versus Winnipeg. So that's two Central Division games that night within the division. Colorado versus Winnipeg should be a real, real good one too. And then Edmonton versus San Jose late at night. Again, Edmonton, playing division rivals, has to start picking up some points because they've not played well lately. And they're headed in the wrong direction again. So they need to turn that around very quickly. When we go to Wednesday, January 9th, we have Nashville versus Chicago. Again, Central Division matchup, and even though Chicago is not very good, there's a strong rivalry between the Predators and Blackhawks. Those two teams do not get along. I would say of all the teams in the Central, Nashville is probably Chicago's biggest rival now. It's no longer St. Louis. St. Louis and Chicago played some very, very boring games this year. I think it's Nashville and Chicago that really hate each other the most as far as Chicago's rivals go. And then Colorado versus Calgary. Calgary first place in the Pacific Division. Colorado dropped down to a wild card spot, but very, very good season so far for the Avalanche. That's a huge game between two very good teams out west. Then we get to Thursday, the 10th, January 10th. We have Washington versus Boston. This is the first time these two teams have played since opening night, when Boston lost, well, I don't even remember, what was it, 7-1 or 7-0, something like that. they got absolutely obliterated by Washington on opening night. Boston obviously has become a much better team since then, and they're looking to get some revenge at home against the Capitals. And now, obviously, Washington kind of has Boston's number. They're just a team that the Bruins cannot beat for whatever reason. So that should be an interesting and fun game to watch. And those two, even though they're not in the same division, Boston and Washington do not like each other. There is a real rivalry between those teams. And every time they play, it usually ends up being a very physical, chippy game. And there's always the chance for a fight or two. So that should be a real fun one to watch. Also on Thursday, we have the two New York teams, New York Islanders versus New York Rangers at Madison Square Garden. That should be a great, great game given where those teams are on the standings. Islanders almost in a playoff spot. The Rangers a little bit further out, but still having a decent year. That should be a real fun one to watch between two teams that are natural rivals and play in the same city. Over now. Nothing on the 11th. That Friday the 11th, there's only a few games that night. I think there's only 3 or 4 games that night, and nothing super great matchup wise. Then we have Saturday the 12th, and what a day Saturday's going to be. So first you have Philadelphia versus New Jersey, who while neither team's good this year, they're actually the two worst teams in the Metro Division. They play nasty games with each other. Philly and New Jersey do not get along. A lot of that Metro Division play nasty games with each other, but Philadelphia and New Jersey, there's a strong rivalry there. And they usually, when they meet up, there's some big-time hitting going on, a lot of scrums, and the occasional fight. So that should, even though they're not great teams, should be a fun game to watch, and the entertainment value should be high. Also, you have the New York Rangers versus New York Islanders. Again, so New York and New York playing a home and home. I talked last week about how the lack of home and homes. Here is one between rival teams, the Rangers and Islanders. That should be a real fun one to watch. This time back at the Islanders' home rink, and they're playing, I think, at Nassau. They're playing a lot of their games now back at Nassau Coliseum, back on Long Island, where the Islanders belong and should have never left. So that should be a real fun one to get, the Rangers back in town on Long Island and watch that game there. So great matchup there. Those are both afternoon games. Then at night, you have Tampa Bay versus Buffalo, which should be a great Atlantic Division matchup between the top team in the Atlantic and a wild card team in the Atlantic, who is really is better than a wild card team in most divisions, but because the Atlantic is so good, Buffalo's in a wild card spot right now. Then you have Boston versus Toronto in Toronto. The last time that these two teams meet up this year, and I don't think there is a stronger rivalry in the NHL right now than Boston versus Toronto. After meeting in the playoffs last year and the things that have gone on between those teams this year, it's just gonna be an absolute barn burner. It should be an extremely fun game to watch, a really good matchup. The last time these two teams met, it was a incredibly nasty game. Boston won 6-3. There were 3 fights in the game. It was just incredible hockey to watch. It felt like I was watching in 2011, not in 2018 or 2019. So that should be a real fun game to watch. And in Toronto, Toronto won the first game in Toronto this year. Boston won the 2 games in Boston. So they can either split the season series with the home team winning every game if Toronto wins, or if Boston wins, Boston takes the season series 3-1. So that will be a real fun game to watch and a great matchup. And lastly, St. Louis versus Dallas. Again, Central Division matchup, teams that do not get along. Dallas fighting for a playoff spot, currently in 3rd place in the Central. St. Louis probably out of it as far as playoffs are concerned at this point in the season. But still, when you play a rival team, it doesn't matter what your record is, how good or bad you are, you get up for that game. So that should be a fun one to watch. So, there you have it. A ton of great matchups this week. This week is incredible for matchups and just so many great games to watch. I will be watching as many of these as possible. Obviously, I cannot watch all of them. A lot of them will be games going on at the same time. But pick which ones you like the best and give them a watch because it's gonna be very good hockey this week in the NHL. So, with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media, check out offthewallhockey.com. All those links are in the description below. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.